Okay, ladies and gents, are we live? It's your favorite Asian robot, hopefully your favorite Diablo 4 creator, and now we're going to go through the class balance changes for patch 1.1.1. As you know, I separate all this stuff out because, honestly, if we do it all in one, it's going to be like an hour long. I know many people like to post TLDRs, they like to post the short version of things. I've come to learn that all of that just gives people the misunderstanding, like when everybody said, Sorc bad, and then I played Sorc and now everybody's searching for my video. Yeah, I won't be doing that. So, you know what? As always, I've been different and I'm going to keep doing things differently. So here is the second half of my review of patch 1.1.1. First of all, let's understand what the developer's intention was. Excuse me. The developer's intention with this patch was to improve the effectiveness of the Sorcerers and Barbarians while addressing the following for each class. For the Sorcerer, they wanted to improve late-game survivability, mostly through Paragon board improvements. Well, let's see whether or not this actually takes place. They want to adjust some class mechanics to move away from the Kiss Curse effect. This is where the player gains power but loses power somewhere else. Well, could they please remove Glass Cannon then and just turn it to Cannon? You know, just give me cannon boost, bro. Don't give me glass cannon. But anyway, I'm joking. Barbarian, speed up the flow of combat in the early game by increasing fury generation on basic skills, and add late game excitement by increasing the power of unique items. Strengthen builds that aren't reaching a high power level. Diversify the use cases for legendary items and other effects that are overly situational. Okay. Let's have a look-see at each of these changes. All right. So let's take a look at the Barbarian first. Basically, all of the Fury generators, all right, have had increased Fury gain. Excuse me. Yep, that seems to be pretty much across the board. Enhanced Frenzy is the one that has the smallest Fury gain, but it appears to be to the Enhanced Frenzy itself, not the basic Frenzy, so that's interesting enough for me. I actually look forward to trying out some of these. Double Swing, damage increased from 40% to 50%. Enhanced Rupture, damage increased from 45% to 70%. Enhanced Charge, damage increased from 30% to 60%. Pretty good. Mighty Charge, vulnerable duration increased from 2 to 4 seconds. This might actually be viable now. I'll have to test it out when I get the chance. Violent Upheaval. If upheaval damages at least 2 enemies or a boss, you gain Berserking for 2 seconds. Increase to 3 seconds if it damages at least 4 enemies. Aggressive Resistance. Damage reduction increased from 3% to 4%. Gushing Wounds. Bleed damage dealt based on critical damage bonus increased from 100 to 115%. Okay. Bleed damage when overpowering increased from 11% to 70%. Okay. Unconstrained. Berserking damage bonus increased from 25% to 35%. Updated the tooltip to more clearly reflect this key passive's value. Okay. I look forward to reading the updated tooltip because it didn't seem to work as planned before, but I'll have a look. Walking Arsenal bonus damage increased from 6 to 8 seconds. This might increase build variety, but it remains to be seen what will actually be viable for the Barbarian. Like I said, I'm looking forward to trying things out. I think it might be very interesting, but we'll have to see. Legendaries. Aspect of Ancestral Force. The damage is upped from 32 to 50%, now to 40 and 50 to 58, which is good. This will make Ancestral Force a bit more... this will allow the Hammer of the Ancients to be a bit more viable as a clearing AoE. Death Wish Aspect. Thorns increased from 0.5 to 0.75 to 0.65 to 0.85. Okay, interesting. Aspect of Unrelenting Fury. Core skill cost to refund increased from 10 to 20% to 20 to 30%. Okay. Added functionality. Cost refund also granted when hitting bosses. Okay, that is really nice. This might make it viable. We will see. A lot of this is a we will see situation. If you want to know what this actually does, in fact, I was actually planning on doing this anyway. There we go. If you go into the Extra Life wiki, you can just see that killing an enemy with a core skill refunds a percentage of its base fury cost, can only happen once per skill cast. But now it will also grant the core skill refund when hitting bosses, which might drastically help in some situations. Again, Hammer of the Ancients is the big case for this. 30% refund is nothing to sniff at. Might make life a little bit easier, but anyway, we'll see. Okay, Aspect of Ancestral Charge. Let's have a look at this one. What does this do right now? I think it's better that we take a look at each of these changes in context. With the Aspect of Ancestral Charge, the charge will now call forth 4 Ancients who also charge, dealing previously with 50 to 100%, now it's 75 to 125% of the normal damage. This will probably turn your charge into a wide AoE. It can be obtained by Source Lamau. Okay, wait. Let me just put it into Google and find. Let's have a look at max roll. In general, their information is correct. Drop only, no codex available. There you go. So it's drop only, no codex available. All right. Can be obtained by source. I love this. Sometimes I like taking a look at. I like taking a look at the wiki pages. All right. Earthquake aspect damage bonus in earthquakes increased from the previous 15 to 5 to 15. It's now 15 to 25. So what is this earthquaking aspect? Let's have a look at it. In this case, all right, Ground Stomp creates an earthquake that damages enemies, all right? And while standing in the earthquake, you deal increased damage. All right, this is actually very useful. And it's one of the few reasons why the Ground Stomp is still viable in several builds, and why it can be viable for not just Fury generation, but also for boosting damage. In this particular case, though, if you have a way to make them vulnerable, I'm thinking something like Charge, right? Then you add in the Earthquake aspect from this Ground Stomp, you might have an interesting way of clearing enemies, inflicting you might have an interesting way of inflicting stun first via the Ground Stomp, generating Fury, charging your enemies, and then possibly, dishing out some other stuff as well. Some uniquely odd builds might be possible with this. I actually really want to see all this in action and just see what the heck happens. Honest to God, it might be very interesting. So I am actually kind of interested. I am very interested, actually. I want to see this. So this might be a cool thing to have. I have a weird idea. It'll only be possible with the Barber Heart, but I got a weird idea for this. It might make the Barbarian worth trying after the patch drops. So think about that. All right, because that's pretty interesting. All right, uniques. Fields of Crimson. All right, if you don't know what Fields of Crimson are, let's search it up. All right. Fields of Crimson is a unique two-handed sword, which basically gives you the unique effect that damaging at least one enemy with Rupture creates a blood pool that inflicts X bleeding damage over 6 seconds. Enemies standing in the pool will take 15% increased bleeding damage. So you can use Rupture to explode people, and then after that, they take even more bleeding damage. So you can go like mega splodo kill kind of thing. So that'll be pretty cool. The Hellhammer. Damage increased now. Burning duration increased. Let's have a look at it. What does the Hellhammer actually do? The Hellhammer will cause upheaval to ignite the ground, burning enemies for an additional amount of damage. Yeah. Ramaldini's Magnum Opus. This one is a two-handed sword that when you use this weapon, will cause you to lose 2 fury every second, but skills using this weapon deal increased damage per point of fury that we have. Yeah, but no. Okay, losing fury bad. All right. 100,000 steps, attacks, reduce, evades, cooldown, affix, replaced by bonus evade charges, damage against stunned, replaced with bonus movement speed. Might actually make these a decent pair of boots if you find them. Battle trance, basic skill damage affix replaced with cooldown reduction. Bonus attack speed to other skills increased from 10 to 20% to 35 to 45%. What does this actually do? Because I've literally never found this either. Oh, it's the necklace. That's pretty sick. I see. Increases frenzies maximum stacks by 2. While you have maximum frenzy, your other skills gain increased attack speed. Oh. Battle trance, bro. Yeah, nice unique amulet. Now I remember it was so bad because it didn't have cooldown reduction, but now it's guaranteed cooldown reduction. Might make this actually worth having. Although fury cost reduction would still probably be the next ideal affix and movement speed. But this does have damage reduction, so if you just want cooldown reduction, you're not really caring about the others, or you're still finding your perfect god rolled rare amulet. Could be good. Could be good. It'll lose the basic skill damage affix, but hey, that's pretty alright. Okay, that's it for the Barbarian changes. My thoughts overall on the Barbarian changes, I think that they're good. As you saw, I was doing some thinking even while reading them. I have the feeling that they genuinely may create some more build diversity. I've got some weird plans in my head. We'll have to see whether or not they work out, but realistically speaking, if we can avoid the I must use 3 shouts kind of dealio, this might actually be pretty good. This might genuinely be pretty good. So I would personally like to see all of this work in general. And yeah, that actually is overall pretty interesting to me as a player who's looking to create something fun to play with the Barbarian that might be a nice alternative. So I like that idea. Okay, let's have a look at the Rogue. For the Rogue, the Rogue changes are as follows. The skills: Fundamental Invigorating Strike, Energy Threshold increased, Primary Forceful Arrow, every third cast pierces enemies, Enhanced Caltrops, damage bonus increased from 3% to 5%, Poison Trap, damage increased from 344% to 396%, Supreme Rain of Arrows, first wave knocks down enemies for 3 seconds. All of this sounds good. Not helpful. I'm going to make a snap judgment right now because, number one, why do we all use puncture? Vulnerability. Vulnerability. None of these inflict vulnerable. Nobody's going to use them. Okay? Let's be real here. None of these inflict vulnerable. None. So, what are we going to do here? We need a way to make enemies vulnerable. We're not waiting for the exploit glyph. No rogue does that. So, this is not helpful. Puncture, like all of these changes don't change the fact that we're reliant on puncture for vulnerable. Okay? And poison trap, yeah, that's great, but we don't really have time for DOT to be working. Again, rogue is so squishy that we don't exactly have time to sit around DOTing enemies. That doesn't really work. Tried it. Sounds good in theory. Doesn't, fails miserably in practice because enemies aren't going to die from poison trap. Supreme Rain of Arrows. No, if you want to use an ultimate, I guess. But again, Death Trap would be superior. Death Trap combined with Poison Trap generally would work better. So I would have liked it more if they increase the trap knockdown. Maybe make the traps, pull in enemies and then knock them down for, I don't know, 3 seconds would be great. Might be helpful. Okay. Passives. Victimizes lucky hit chance increased from the previous 35 to 45%. Yeah, it's not going to be used though because you're giving up a lot of other things, and why would I use Victimize when Barber Heart exists? So this change falls flat. Rugged. Damage reduction against damage over time effects increased from 6, 12, 18 to 9, 18, 27. Except that we don't even have skill points to put into this because we never use them. Furthermore, we are so squishy that we literally have to try and end the fight in seconds. So this is also going to fall flat. Siphoning strikes, lucky hit chance increased from 75 to 85%. Okay, that's a little bit helpful, but the point is that it still needs to be a lucky hit. So yeah, you're denying rogues the whole healing, which was the only way to circumvent their squishiness. However, I guess the temerity change means that temerity would probably be a must-have unique, because it would be one of the great ways to gain barrier above your life. So temerity is just going to go up and up in popularity. Going to make that clear. All right, especially you get a good chest piece that can reduce damage versus like close, distant, whatever, you know, just use that with some good damage reduction, total armor. Yeah. 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 This like, it's just making temerity like the ideal best in slot choice. Like, this doesn't really help anything else. Okay, legendaries. Aspect of Elusive Menace no longer requires hits to be from close enemies. Let's take a look at what this is. Show me. Aspect of Elusive Menace is a legendary aspect in Diablo 4. What does it do? Well, you have both bonuses from the close quarters combat key passive. Your dodge chance increases by 3 to 7% whenever you're hit by a close enemy. Successfully dodging resets this bonus. Type defensive can be used by the rogue class. So it'll just improve overall dodge chance, but it's only like 3 to 7%. Well, we'll have to see. I have never really used it, but we'll have to see. Aspect of Quickening Fog. You automatically drop a smoke grenade at the end of dash. Smoke grenades reduce dash's cooldown by 0.4 to 0.6 seconds per target hit, up to 2 to 3 seconds. Okay. This is a positive change, but this would just make the Twisting Blades rogue build better. Doesn't really help other builds because they're the ones that use dash the most. So yeah, I'm just seeing Twisting Blades getting better here. I'm not seeing anything else good for the rogue. Uniques, Wind Force, all stats affix replaced with vulnerable damage, which is great, except that... Oh, shit, why'd I close the window? Ugh. Diablo 4. Whatever, this will work. Wind Force in Diablo 4. Lucky hit. Hits with this weapon have 18% chance to deal double damage and knock back the target. Okay. The fact that they're replacing all stats with vulnerable damage. If you inflict vulnerable, but then again, I guess you could use it in a RF build with Wind, like if you use Wind Force exclusively, it would technically work with a RF build, technically speaking. Or a barrage build, but I think RF would probably be the right choice here. RF plus Barber Heart would basically solve any and all issues. Pretty much. Then you need an exploit glyph, but that would work as a very cheesy endgame build. Like permanent vulnerability infliction with Barber Heart, detonate everything. You can just literally walk around doing nothing but RF and everything would die. You just wouldn't be able to level the rogue with it, but realistically speaking, it could offer an interesting alternative toward the end game, and you'd be able to just like spam all these different like you'd be able to go with an imbue based build. So yeah, this would actually be a positive change for the Wind Force, because Wind Force would always have the same stats every single time. So yeah, okay, I'm starting to see that this could be a potential thing, and you could turn it up to 11 by using a variety of aspects. If I get the rogue to level 100, I might actually do something weird with that, because that'll be honest to God, I'd use Twisting Blades while leveling, and then like later on, once I get the Wind Force, I would just make this hilarious RF build that would just like rip through everything, because that would be funny. It'd be literally the funniest build, combined with Barber Heart and the one where you can that heart that has all the enhancements at once. All that gives you a chance, like skills, the lucky hit chance to do all the imbuements at once. Like, this would be literally funny. I would laugh at this so hard. So this would be a thing. This would 100% be a thing. Okay, I like that idea. This is nice. All right. I'm thinking up some evil plans already. Okay, grand. The Word of Hakan, ultimate damage affix replaced with cooldown reduction. This sounds like an amulet. Is it an amulet? Let's check. Search. Unique in Diablo 4. Yes. Thanks, Ma. She was bringing me hot water while I was filming. Your rain of arrows is always imbued with all imbuements at once. I see some potential. Perhaps I could use this. I would get the very useful cooldown reduction, but I miss out on movement speed but then again, it does increase critical strike damage. Potential. I could use it together with the legendary aspect that allows Rain of Arrows to trigger from my skills, and you could have 3 Rain of Arrows available all at once. So that could create some very interesting synergies there. All imbued skills as once, plus Barber Heart. I could continuously Rain of Arrow around my enemies. To combine with Wind Force, these two together could be quite a force to be reckoned with. But the other changes all fall flat. So you could create a rogue build that would be based almost entirely on long range attacks, which would be very interesting to see. But, and I'm going to say this openly, but you are also going to have to be aware that you will need a way of inflicting. You're still going to have to end up taking puncture for vulnerability infliction. No matter what, even with the exploit glyph and all that, you just never use it, but it's probably going to be a backup skill anyway, because you need to put 2 basic skill points in there. So there's no way to avoid that, and the rest of the build wouldn't get much benefit out of it. But it'd be an interesting cheesy build that you could play with the rogue. So that's it for the rogue changes. Overall, not impressed, because they're not actually helping any of the problems with the rogue. If you want to play a ranged rogue, you're literally dependent on the new Wind Force, thanks to the vulnerable damage multiplier, which makes it good, well, semi-decent for once. You are now literally beholden to Wind Force with the RF build and imbuements if you want to play a so-called range rogue. And you would, because you would only regenerate energy off vulnerable targets, you would literally need the exploit glyph maxed out. So that's another thing, all right? That's something you have to think about. Might be fun to play toward endgame, but yeah, we'll have to see on that. Okay, Druid changes now. Let's take a look at the Druid changes. For the Druid changes, they've given us a variety of increases in terms of spirit gain. Okay, so pretty much all the skills have increased spirit gain. Wolves have increased passive damage and active damage. Enhanced Wolf Pack, the bonus damage is now increased. The Brutal Wolf Pack, their attack speed bonus has also been increased. So wolf is all I'm hearing here. Ferocious Wolf Pack, Fortify amount increased as well. Ravens, passive damage increase. Brutal Ravens, added functionality, increases the passive damage of Ravens by 40%. Rabies, the damage over time is increased 76% to 110%, but damage over time, as we all know, is still pretty much useless. Okay, so that's a thing. In terms of the Paragon, the Lightning Resilience Rare Node, maximum life bonus has been increased, but it doesn't really matter. Legendaries, aspect of Metamorphic Stone. Let's have a look at that. Searching this is a pain. Let's plug it in here. Ah, forget it. If it's not going to show me that, then I'll just go here. Faster. Oh, yeah. Boulder is now a core skill. Yeah, nobody's going to use that. So, okay. Boulder is never going to be seen. Aspect of the alpha. Your wolf companions are now werewolf companions. Woo. Werewolf companions deal additional damage and can spread rabies. So, the damage is previously 75 to 100%. Now it's up to 90 to 115%. It could create some interesting companion build type synergies, but you'd still have to run a main build. So that would kind of still be a thing. We'll have to see how that goes. I can foresee some use out of this. Some, but not like all the best. Like, it could be interesting, but we'll have to see whether or not there is any synergy to be derived. Part of the reason why Trample is still heavily utilized is, again, the whole problem of Unstoppable. Now, Bulwark can serve as a bit of protection from that, but we'll like I said, we'll have to see how the overall goes, because Unstoppables are just too crucial in most circumstances. But like I said, we will see how that goes. Mangled aspect, resource gain increased from 1 to 3. Okay. Class mechanic overload. The lucky hit chance increased from 20% to 40%. Let me check this overload. If I'm not wrong, that's a spur boon, isn't it? Overload, there it is. Well, I'm going to pick it in the early game anyway, so I guess this is a benefit to the Druid. Overall, I would say this would benefit the leveling build, because I'm going to go Storm this time, but will it change any of the best builds or give us some additional stuff to work with on this build? I don't know. My honest thought is that that remains to be seen. We shall have to see how that works, but we'll see how the Druid goes and how, or whether or not I can work any of this stuff into it. The biggest thing is that, you see, this aspect of the alpha, if I'm not wrong, it's a drop only. Let's double check that, because I just want to be very sure before I say anything on it. Is it a drop only or is it a dungeon? Yeah, it's a drop only, so it's not dungeon based, which means that it might not be as, good for leveling, but we will see. I am very keen on understanding this better and seeing whether or not it will work out. There's a variety of ways that I can make this all work together, and I'm kind of keen to see how it'll all play out. But I've got some ideas for the Druid. Will this change any of these ideas? Maybe, but it's more like a change toward the end game section rather than the early game section. But like I said, we will have to see how all of that goes. I think that the fact that they can spread rabies might make it actually worthwhile if you go werebear, because of that aspect whereby poison enemies take more damage from werebear skills and whatnot. There might be some interesting things that you can pull together there. So I'm very interested to see how it'll all come together, personally. That said, most of the changes are good. So Druid-wise, the changes, I would say, are overall good. Unlike the rogue changes where the majority of the changes fell flat, other than the unique changes. But this one, I would say majority of the changes are good, and I think it'd be very interesting to see how they all function. Okay, Sorcerer, now. This is what a lot of people are interested in. Are the Sorcerer changes going to be actually helpful? Let's take a look. Flickering Firebolt generates 2 mana when hitting an enemy. Okay, but nobody's going to use Firebolt. Enhanced Fireball. Casting Fireball increases its radius by 50%, so this is a positive change. Previously, it was based on distance travel. Now it's just like instantly boom, which I guess is okay, but again, not quite sure if that's helpful because Barber Heart is a thing. So once again, that's probably not a good idea. Destructive Fireball. Fireball's critical strike damage is increased by 20%. This bonus is increased to 30% if Fireball hits at least 3 enemies. I think it'll really help the early game. Because you could directly use Fireball. Now that its radius is increased by 50%, using Fireball in the early stages of the game might actually be like a good way of dishing out ideal damage. So that would be pretty cool. But Greater Chain Lightning has also been changed to deal 5% increased damage for its duration each time it bounces. It no longer needs to bounce off you, so this actually makes Greater Chain Lightning quite worthwhile. Previously, we always took this anyway in the early stages as a bit of an anti-elite. When you've killed everything else with the Chain Lightning, you use that on the elite so it bounces off you and deals damage when it hits the elite. But now that it increases 5% anyway, regardless of who it bounces off, we'll still get, roughly the same increase. So this would be pretty good. That said, Fireball might be the more attractive core skill during the leveling stages. If anyone's leveling a new Sorcerer, I would encourage them to try this out, but my personal thought is that it's still not going to help the late game because, once again, the big problem is vulnerable and only ice skills inflict that. Destructive Chain Lightning, chance to form crackling energy is increased, but that was never used anyway. Passive, Veer's Mastery, damage bonus increased from 10% to 15%, which is good, but again, Lightning doesn't have a way of inflicting vulnerable outside of Frost Nova. Not exactly the best ideal. Esu's Ferocity, additional functionality. I mean, I guess it'll make Lightning builds okay, but you're still 100% dependent upon Frost Nova to get any of the vulnerability going, and if you don't have Frost Nova out, then life is pretty miserable. So yeah, ice builds I still think would end up superior. Esu's Ferocity, additional functionality. Both bonuses are granted for 3 seconds when hitting a boss with a critical strike. Okay. Combustion, your burning effects deal 20% increased damage plus an additional 2% increased damage per unique source of burning you have applied to the enemy. Okay, but burning is still DOT. Sorcerers are squishy. You don't exactly benefit a lot from that. Plus DOT cannot crit. It does, DOT works together with vulnerable but not crit. Because damage of time skills cannot crit. So yeah, that kind of falls flat again. Because one of the best passives for fire, which is used across all the classes, is the one that increases critical strike damage, yet burning damage cannot crit. Remember, DOT cannot crit, only direct damage can, so yeah, not exactly helpful, because anything that is DOT related generally falls flat in the whole damage multiplier formula, because they're missing one link that direct damage has, and it's less instantaneous. So enemies are alive for longer, whacking you for longer, and when you're really pushing the hardest stuff, that's a no-no. That's a no bueno. You cannot let them hit you freely, you see? So that becomes a problem as well. That's why I say I think, in my honest opinion, this change falls flat. It might help the early and mid-game, but I'm doubtful for the end game. Paragon. Searing Heat Legendary Node. Casting Fireball or Meteor increases your critical strike chance by 5% for 5 seconds up to 15%. This will probably be good for fire-based builds, but fire-based builds still suffer from the whole we cannot inflict vulnerable issue, which an ice build can do at a distance via ice shards. Take note, same that it can do via Frozen Orb. Ceaseless Conduit Legendary Node, although Frozen Orb is, that's another issue there. Ceaseless Conduit Legendary Node, increase critical crackling energies damage from 2% to 3% per 20 intelligence. The player has. Why is reinforced rare glyph here? Did they forget to type the reinforced rare glyph change? But whatever, never mind. I don't care. I'm sure they'll fix it eventually. But yeah, basically this change here, ignoring Blizzard's terrible mistake, this crackling energy thing will be helpful for lightning-based builds, but this is more of a late-game thing, and the biggest issue remains the fact that we have no way, that the lightning build outside of Frost Nova has no way of inflicting vulnerable. So once again, this presents a problem, and it is one of the bigger struggles, not having a way of consistently inflicting vulnerable. However, because of Raiment of the Infinite and Temerity now, it is possible to plug in both those uniques. Esu's Heirloom, a really, really nice amulet that has movement speed, mana cost reduction and all that, and then go in, spam all your mana, and pop your defensive skills, Frost Nova, and your unstable currents, and actually dish out respectable damage. So, although it suffers from problems, this might create at least some degree of alternative to the Ice Shards Blizzard build. However, the Ice Shards Blizzard build is very much stronger and still remains very strong. That said, I think the Lightning builds do have some potential. At the very least, this Ceaseless Conduit legendary node change is a big positive because Crackling Energy does tend to matter once you're starting to run that full-on Prime Unstable Currents style. But do keep in mind that it has less ability to inflict vulnerable, which is the major issue again. And this will be covered in a video where I talk about the Sorcerer and why the Ice Sorcerer build pretty much, goes over the heads of all the other builds in the game right now. Okay, next, Territorial Rare Glyph. The damage reduction increased from 10% to 15% for close enemies. This will be of highest use to the lightning-based builds, which take a lot of advantage of the Territorial Rare Glyph, since Arc Lash requires you to be up close and personal, therefore increasing your damage overall. The Warding Rare Glyph, which allows you to increase your damage reduction based on how little mana you have, has now had its bonus increased up to 25%. It was never really considered before, but it may potentially be considered if you're running a mana dump, like a mag dump mana build. But because the damage reduction will always be in flux, it's not as reliable, and still, I don't know if this will be worth sacrificing a precious glyph slot for, since most likely you'd want more of the offensive stuff in there anyway. Keeper of the Flames rare node damage reduction. Let me see. Keeper of the Flames. Let's see where this is. It increases fire resistance and damage reduction from enemies that are burning. See, I kind of knew this, but why does it say damage reduction here when they specifically stated on the Smoldering Embers damage reduction from burning enemies? All right. So yeah, this all applies to burning enemies, which my Ice Shard Sorcerers would be using anyway. So this is a buff to the Ice build, because if I want more damage reduction, that's going to come from these nodes. So that's pretty useful, I would say. I'll have to see how much damage reduction I actually end up needing, but we will see and test at a later time, what's the best way to do all this shenanigans. In terms of the Smoldering Ember, same thing. Guarded rare node, damage reduction from vulnerable enemies. Again, this benefits the Ice build more than any other build, because why? You can reliably make every single enemy vulnerable. FYI. That has been the greatest strength of that whole build, because you go in, everybody's vulnerable, bada bing, bada boom, it's all solved because of Ice Shards. Ice Shards makes your primary target vulnerable, and it makes the elite that it's going to probably hit you for the most damage vulnerable. So this is super useful. So again, Ice Shards builds are getting a boost thanks to all of this. All of this boosts your Ice Shards build and makes it even better, while the other changes don't really benefit a lot of the other builds, because although this damage reduction from vulnerable enemies, and again, oppressive rare node, again, damage reduction from vulnerable enemies, all of this benefits the Ice build more than any of the other builds, because all of the other builds, yeah, sure, they're getting increases, but they don't have a way of consistently inflicting vulnerable other than Frost Nova. That's the issue. So these changes kind of fall flat. Sure, they can also cop onto the damage reduction from burning enemies, but Ice Shards is getting double of that. So Ice Shards will still be the most tanky and probably the highest damage. In general, Ice is still the best element. Lightning Resilience rare node, maximum life bonus increased. Okay, Legendary Serpentine Aspect. They have committed to their whole Kiss Curse alteration thing. So now not only do you get one additional Hydra, but the duration is increased, but again, no vulnerable. What is the Hydra supposed to do? Nothing. So yeah, it'll benefit early and mid game, not really end game. Aspect of Conflagration, burning damage increase, yay. Aspect of Engulfing Flames, burning damage increase. But this one, Aspect of Engulfing Flames, in case you didn't know how it works, this one is a rather unique one, where when the damage over time is more than their total life, you will deal increased burning damage to them. Except that this is a DOT benefit, And yeah, it'll increase the direct damage or whatever else. But honest to God, I don't know. DOT has not really been effective, and I've never seen the DOT stack up a lot. I guess we can see how that'll play out towards end game, but I really don't foresee this working very well. I guess we can see. Honestly, we'll have to see. This is a very much a wait and see type of situation. Maybe some fire builds will become viable, but I don't foresee that happening because again, no vulnerable, you're missing one entire multiplier. DOT can't even crit, although it can benefit off vulnerable. And you're still going to end up using Frost Nova anyway, which is a relatively close range skill. Unless you're auto CCing enemies. And enemies that are immobilized can still hit you. They are stopped from moving. And however, Frost freezes them. Complete freeze acts like practically a stun anyway. So again, I only see ice coming out on top. Like, these changes are great, but there are fundamental issues with the other elements that are not being solved by these changes. So I will wait and see if anyone else can come up with a better build, but yeah, I wouldn't be changing from ice anytime soon. Aspect of 3 curses. Increase the critical strike damage of Meteor and Fireball by 20 to 40%. Double this bonus against healthy enemies, which is good. This, by the way, is a very positive change, but again, comes back to the fundamental issues. These changes are all great on paper, but in practice, vulnerability is the be-all and end-all. This doesn't really help. And healthy enemies, doubling this bonus, it'll help with the one-shots against trash mobs. But once the enemies start getting way above your level, then this becomes even more of a problem. So not exactly the best choice. Okay. Gravitational aspect. Ball lightning orbits around you and deals 15 to 25 increased damage. This is a significant boost and will make a lightning build semi-viable using, like, if you went like with the preseason lightning build, right? But you use the gravitational aspect instead of, like, basically an arc lash build, all right? Utilizing utilizing all of these effects would technically do well toward the end game, potentially. But again, your only source of vulnerable is still going to be Frost Nova, and you're going to end up running a 4 defensive skills and arc lash type build, where the ball lightning comes from your either stable aspect or your prime unstable currents. So you'd have both of them running. Then you get all this ball lightning orbiting around you and dishing out increased damage, which would be really, really great. But this would require like all these different legendary aspects to come online. It would be a competitive endgame build, but during the early and mid game, late game, and toward end game, ice is still going to reign at the top. This would be an alternative if you get bored of ice, but you'd only be able to switch into it around level 80 plus when you have all the legendary aspects, all the best choices, all the ideal gear. So it'd be an alternative way of playing, but again, alternative endgame. So yeah, this does bring the lightning build up to closer standards, but again, vulnerability is the biggest issue, and that is only available via the Frost Nova. That said, Raiment of the Infinite plus Temerity, you'd be able to pull enemies in, and because, don't forget, you'd have very, very fast cooldown reductions. Let's not mince our words there. You would have extremely fast cooldown reductions. I would say that this would actually be a fairly good choice. You could still make use of the board that has all the vulnerable damage in it, and get some additional lucky hit chance from that board to dish out the best possible lucky hits. I can foresee some of this working. But overall, again, it's not the ideal that I want. But it could work for level 100. Okay, aspect of Unbroken Tether. Additional chain lightning bounces increase from 2 to 4. This would benefit early and mid game. Really not end game stuff, so it doesn't really matter. Recharging aspect. Every time chain lightning bounces, you gain up to 3 mana. Again, you use it early mid game. That's not really going to help, but whatever. Maybe somebody will find a use for it. Charged aspect. Bonus movement speed increase to 8 seconds. Aspect of Bounding Conduit. Bonus movement speed increased again. Useful, but obviously not the ideal. There's a new legendary aspect called Mage Lord's Aspect. Increases Veer's Mastery Key passive damage reduction by 69% for each close enemy, up to 18 to 27%. So against like hordes of elites, this would be massive damage reduction, which can be really, really useful for the lightning builds. Again, it favors the whole arc lash ball lightning prime currents build with 4 defensive aspects, but with 4 defensive skills. But again, that's a pretty boring playstyle. So if you guys really want that, then you can definitely take that. It would be pretty okay, but I'm just going to be real with you guys that this would not entirely be the ideal. It's great for the end game build, not so great for early mid game, and certainly ice would not, you know, benefit from this, but it's still going to be the reigning champion. Aspect of Frozen Orbit, damage increase from 20 to 30, now it's 30 to 40. I still would not use Frozen Orb over Ice Shards, but who knows, maybe somebody can come up with some cheesy way to use this. Storm Swell, bonus damage increase from 11 to 20%. If you don't know what this does, let's have a quick look. Storm Swell Aspect. This is increased damage to vulnerable enemies while you have a barrier. It's a great secondary enhancer, and I have considered actually using it on my character now that's going up to 20 to 30%. Honest to God, because I always do have a barrier, this might actually be a really nice skill to have. And since I'm always inflicting vulnerable, this would be very ideal to have. So hell yeah, I would actually love to have this one. This one seems like a very good choice to have in conjunction together with the conceited aspect. Snow Veiled Aspect, unstoppable duration increased from 2 to 3 seconds to 3 to 5 seconds, and also grants bonus armor for the same duration. Snow Veiled Aspect, in case you didn't know, guys, it's the one where the ice armor makes you unstoppable. So you can use this. Previously, it was only 2 to 3 seconds, but now that it will last up to 5 seconds, it would benefit both the Arc Lash build as well as the Ice Shards build. So this would benefit the end game and mainly benefits Ice. So Ice is still going to be reigning champion because now you get increased armor as well as being unstoppable. So whoop-de freaking do, you are now even stronger than before. Add a Temerity into the mix, and all of a sudden, this Storm Swell Aspect is also going to boost your damage quite a bit. So yeah, this is actually looking really good for a Temerity and Arc Lash build, because both of them can take advantage of the Raiment of the Infinite plus Temerity, all this other stuff. It's just looking really good for the two best builds, one of which is Lightning, one of which is Ice. And the Lightning build, unfortunately, though, is only an endgame build. But still, all of this is looking really positive for them across the board. So this is nice. This is very nice. Okay. Incendiary Aspect. Damage from your Pyromancy skills has up to a 17% chance to restore 10 mana. Okay, Incendiary Aspect. If I'm not wrong, the wording is a bit different. Burning damage has up to a 12 to 17% chance to restore 10%. Does this mean that it will now only apply to Pyromancy skills? Because if that is the case, they haven't changed anything. They've just changed it from burning damage to Pyromancy skills. So this is in fact a nerf, because if you were using burning damage on several, like for example on a lightning build, although, well, the Arc Lash build wouldn't use that, it would just be like one of the leveling lightning builds. This actually hurts lightning build leveling via the burn damage change. So this is actually a negative change. We'll see, like it's clearly designed to only benefit the Pyromancy skills, but we'll have to actually see how that turns out. So I'm gonna remain cautious on this one. If somebody does end up with a good, very, very strong burning type build, then they're probably going to see more use out of this, but I'm certainly not seeing any great effect here. Snow Guard's Aspect. While you're within your own blizzard and 3 seconds after leaving it, you take 20 to 25% less damage. This is pretty okay. This is pretty okay in terms of your damage reduction, but it requires you to literally cast Blizzard on, you know, on yourself. Good, but not great. I would still probably prefer the armor, Aspect of Disobedience, Aspect of Might, but it does have some potential if you're going with Temerity instead. You could put it out, you could slap it on your helmet, but it depends on whether or not you need the Unstoppable, because it would either be this you could use or this Snow Veiled Aspect. I would prefer Snow Veiled because Unstoppable is universally useful. All right, Aspect of Concentration. What does this do? Right now, aspect of concentration will increase your mana regeneration if you have not taken damage. Okay, so instead of 3 seconds, now it's down to 2 seconds, and the mana regeneration is increased, but you're always taking damage. You're not. This would be a respite like out of combat, but you regenerate fast enough out of combat anyway. So I don't know if this is going to be used much. All right. Gloves of the Illuminator, damage penalty reduced. Whoa, I've literally never even seen these gloves before. Let's have a look at what they do. Gloves of the Illuminator. Critical strike chance, lucky hit, stun chance, ranks to fireball, attack speed for fireball. Fireball now bounces as it travels, exploding each time it hits the ground, but its explosion deals less damage. Okay, the damage penalty has been greatly reduced. Damage to stunned is now replaced with lucky hit. Change to restore resource. Okay, so now it can restore your primary resource. Illuminator's first bounce occurs much closer to the player. I mean, this is a weird unique, but I guess if some guy wants to make some weird bouncy fireball build, that could work. Holy cow, this has gone on for 50 minutes. Damn, there's a lot of changes. But quick summary for the Sorcerer. Yeah, most of the changes are falling flat for me. I see mostly buffs to the lightning, but again, end game only. And I see a lot of good stuff for the ice build overall anyway. So my judgment is that fire sorcerers are still screwed out of everything because they just overall damage over time is bad. Unless damage over time overcomes everything or has a way of inflicting vulnerable, that's not going to see much use. Necromancer, damn. Okay, we finally here after 50 minutes. Enhanced Bone Spirit, cooldown reduction increased from 6 to 7 seconds. Wither legendary board, willpower. So Enhanced Bone Spirit received a nerf. Oh wait, no, cooldown reduction, sorry. It's a buff. Increased by 1 second. I'm going crazy after 50 minutes of this. Wither legendary board, willpower requirement for bonuses reduced from 50 to 40. Bonus damage per willpower increased from 2.5 to 4%. So for those going Shadow Necro, this would be a buff to you. So that looks pretty interesting. I hope that works out well for the lovely Shadow Necros. Yeah. Legendaries. Aspect of Empowering Reaper. Damaging enemies with Sever has a 10 to 20% chance to spawn a pool of blight. Alright, this effect can happen only once every 3 seconds. Is this a nerf or a buff? Let's check what it used to do before. What's the change? Oh, it's damaging enemies with Sever. So it used to be a critical strike before. Now it doesn't have to be a critical strike. So this is a very positive buff, especially because the blight can increase the, like you can literally make it so the blight is 120%. So this is very interesting. Again, it's a buff to Shadow Necros, but Necro already had viable builds across the board. So this is just really nice to have. Aspect of Exposed Flesh. This one, because it can generate more essence when hitting a vulnerable enemy with your bone skills, you would have to sacrifice a very precious ring slot, which is normally used for your damage stuff. So I'm not 100% keen on this, okay? Because it's lucky hit for generating essence. It might be good to spam your bone spear. But again, this is something that you're going to have to consider for yourself. If you don't end up wanting to use Edgemaster, you might want to roll this because it can restore your essence and keep you casting top tier bone spears for longer. So even when you're mag dumping your bone spear, this might be actually quite helpful. And it will now work across the board. So previously it was with bone skills. The change is that now it just works on any vulnerable enemy. So this is really, really positive. I think the aspect of Exposed Flesh might benefit shadow builds more. The Sever Shadow Necros actually might benefit from this quite a lot. So this might be a very interesting change to a Shadow Necro. Like, hell yeah. A Shadow Necro might be really, really good now. But again, it'll be something I do at end game rather than early game because Bone Spear is still probably the reigning champion. Aspect of Decay. Damage increase from 20 to 40% to 25 to 45%. Let's have a look at what Aspect of Decay does. Each time the Shadow Blight key passive damages enemies, it increases the next Shadow Blight's damage within a particular amount of seconds by a certain amount, stacking up to 5 times. So this is once again very good for the Shadow Necros. Aspect of Torment, let's have a look. Critical strikes with bone skills increase your essence regeneration for 4 seconds. Once again, it's ring aspect. Might be very interesting because now it goes from essence regeneration was previously 20 to 30%. It's gone all the way to up to 170%. This might be better than aspect of exposed flesh. I will definitely have to try this aspect of torment because if it could keep me mag dumping my bone skills for longer, like holy cow, holy coroni, this is pretty good. 170%, that's pretty sick. I might actually be willing to sacrifice Edge Masters for this because I can mag dump even more bone spears. So yeah, okay, this I'll be keeping an eye out. This is a very, very interesting change. I'm very excited for this one, actually. I'm very excited for both of these, aspect of exposed flesh and aspect of torment, but I've gotten neither yet on my bone necro, and this is after lots and lots of farming, so but I'm very happy for these changes. I'm looking forward to them. Hulking aspect, it's changed from resource to utility. Okay, chance for golem to reduce its cooldown. What does this actually do? Let's check out the hulking aspect, because once again I've never paid any attention to it because my golem is literally a 0-point wonder that is used for, you know, extra survival. That's all. Golem has a 1 to 4% chance to reduce its active cooldown by 2 seconds, and a 0.5 to 2% chance to spawn a corpse each time it damages an enemy with its normal attack. Now it'll be changed to utility, so you could slap it on your boots, which would be very interesting to see. It might have some potential. It might have some serious potential, but it would be more used in other builds. So it would be more for minion-based builds, which I think would be really cool. And also it would see more use not only in the minion-based builds, but also in the shadow builds. If you were to use this, if you were to use the golem as a 0-point way of inflicting vulnerable, i.e. via the iron golem. But again, maybe that wouldn't be the case. You'd have to think about it. But yeah, okay. For minion builds, I guess this would be a good increase. Greaves of the Empty Tomb. Intelligence affix replaced with bonus movement speed. Hell yeah, this might actually be useful. Oh my god. Oh my god. Yes. Let's have a look at it. What did the Greaves of the Empty Tomb... I have these, but I can't wait for the change. Essence cost reduction, movement speed. This would be the ideal build. This would be the ideal, but for Shadow Necros, because create desecrated ground beneath your Sever Spectres as they travel, damaging enemies. So this is really, really good. The Shadow build might actually overtake the Bone Spear now. If only because it provides also damage reduction. So these unique boots will really be a serious boost to Shadow builds. Bone Spear is probably still going to reign near the top, but I would say a Sever Shadow Necro is going to be absolutely competitive at endgame level. So that is something to seriously consider, because I've played one before. This would actually be a really positive change. I'm looking forward to it. Minions. The following attacks now deal reduced damage to Druid companions and Necromancer minions. The Balrog's Fire Breath and the Elite affixes Fire Enchanted, Electrified Obelisks, and Shock Lance. So minion builds overall are just getting a boost. Druid companions might actually also be more viable after the patch on the 8th. And that brings us to the end of the class changes. Jesus Christ, this video actually went for an hour. But that's everything covered in detail. Thank you guys for watching this. If you decide to watch this, probably nobody's going to watch this because it's an hour. So to my like 3 or 4 viewers that are going to watch this, okay, thank you very much for putting up with me. I can't believe this video was an hour, but I hope it helps. Okay, everything has been covered in detail. My judgments overall, Necro got the best out of all this. Necro basically now has, like, the Shadow Necro is going to be one of the big champions alongside the Blood Necro, which is already a big champion, alongside the Bone Necro, which is the best for leveling, and also an endgame champion. Necro now has 3 extremely viable endgame builds, and probably the most build variety in the game. They're going to have a lot of fun. Sorcerer, now they've got 2 viable endgame builds, but for leveling, it's still going to be Ice Shards Blizzard all the way up to level 100. Then you can change over to the Arc Lash build if you really want to, and take advantage of all the increased damage reductions. Fire builds are still, in my opinion, out the window, but maybe somebody will make one viable. For the Druid, Companions receive boosts and things like that, but I mean, most of the endgame builds aren't changed. Rogue, there is now a cheesy build probably available via Windforce, but other than that, nothing much has changed. Barbarian, once again, I have not decided, but it seems very interesting overall. This one remains to be seen because there's going to be a lot of testing that needs to go into this. So yeah, those are my judgments. The Barbarian is the only one I'm the most unclear on. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I'm sorry that I went for an hour, but I hope it was helpful to you guys. Allow me now to thank all of the amazing people that made this stuff possible. Let's go to thank the top people first. Okay. Our top supporters for August are top super chatter Marcus Carrillo. Okay, Daniel, and our top super chatter list, Daniel Neo. Lol, Daryl, if you're listening to this, lol. River Archer 124, Raise Reality, top channel membership gifters, Newbie and Boog Slugus. All right, thank you guys so much for supporting me during this month of August. You guys are amazeballs. Next, our cosmetic sponsors, Sinner, Nightshade, Newbie, and Big Chungus. Thank you guys so much. In terms of our top tier channel members, let me give thanks to the following individuals. Okay. Moving over. Our top dude is Big Chungus at the only fan level. We have Death Dawning 92 as our longest channel member at Plus Ultra. Thank you guys so much. Thank you both for being top tier. Jerry Fast, OG, Rogue Assassin, Zach MG, all prestige. Thank you guys so much. In terms of our honored robots, we've got the following individuals: Corey Ryu, Marcel, Kaishiwa, Bob John, Maxim Lotz, Devin Lashin, Mookie Mocha, Rena, Chase Taylor, Nathan Strong, Nightshade, Lady Neo, Joey Danze, Daraverse, Chade D12, I'm Peeps, Sayed Assad, Coda CMF, Kami SMH, Conrad C, Nate the Great, and Benjamin Savage. Thank you guys so much. Thank you to all of our cool and weird bots as well. Thank you for putting up with this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to all of the 5 viewers that are going to watch this, because I know nobody else is going to watch this. Thank you so much for putting up with an hour-long video. I hope it was helpful. I'll see you guys in the next one. Y'all have a good one. Catch you later.